The girl in the wreckage. Ethan Walters pulled his tattered scarf over his mouth as the wind howled across the barren wasteland. The twin suns of the planet Varos 3 were setting, casting an eerie glow over the rust-colored sand dunes. Scavenging here was risky, but Ethan had learned that fortune favored the bold, or the desperate. His speeder bike hummed beneath him as he scanned the horizon for wreckage. He had heard rumors of a recent crash, and crashed ships meant salvage. Weapons, tech, maybe even food if he was lucky. Anything was better than the scraps he had been surviving on. Then, he saw it. A trail of smoke curled into the sky just beyond a ridge. Ethan tightened his grip on the handlebars and gunned the engine, kicking up dust as he sped toward it. The crash site. The wreckage was worse than he expected. The ship, if it could even be called that anymore, was torn in half, its metal carcass still smoldering. Something had brought it down hard. Ethan dismounted cautiously, drawing his blaster. Wreckage like this attracted scavengers, and not all of them were friendly. As he stepped closer, his boots crunched over shattered glass and twisted metal. Then, a sound, soft, barely audible. A groan. Ethan's instincts flared. He turned sharply, scanning the wreckage. Buried beneath a collapsed section of the hull, something moved. He rushed forward, pushing aside a jagged piece of metal. Underneath, curled in a fetal position, was a girl. But she wasn't human. Her skin shimmered in the dim light, marked with bioluminescent patterns that pulsed faintly, as if reacting to his presence. Silver hair fell over her face, partially concealing a deep gash on her forehead. She was injured. Badly. Ethan knelt beside her, hesitating. "Hey," he said gruffly. "Can you hear me?" Her eyes fluttered open, violet, unnaturally bright. She parted her lips, struggling to form words. When she finally spoke, it wasn't in any language Ethan recognized. But the fear in her voice? That was universal. A choice to make. Ethan sighed, running a hand through his hair. He wasn't the kind of guy who played hero. He lived on the edges, avoiding trouble whenever possible. But looking at her now, weak, vulnerable, alone, he knew he couldn't just walk away. "Damn it," he muttered, before sliding his arms beneath her. She tensed but was too weak to resist as he lifted her carefully. Her body was light, unnaturally so, as if gravity barely affected her. He carried her to his speeder and secured her in the back. "I don't know who you are," he muttered, glancing at her unconscious form. "But you better not get me killed." With that, he revved the engine and sped off, leaving the wreckage behind, unaware that taking her was the single most dangerous decision he had ever made. Whispers of an empire. Ethan's speeder kicked up a trail of dust as he raced across the barren wasteland toward his shelter. The alien girl lay limp in the back, her breathing shallow. He wasn't sure if she'd make it through the night, but leaving her behind wasn't an option, not anymore. His hideout was an old mining outpost, abandoned decades ago. The walls were reinforced, the security system barely functional, but it was hidden well enough to keep most scavengers away. As he pulled up, he muttered a quiet curse. This was a bad idea. But something about the girl haunted him. He carried her inside, laying her gently on the old cot in the corner. Her body shivered despite the warmth. Up close, the faint glow of the markings on her skin pulsed in slow, rhythmic waves. Whatever species she was, he had never seen anything like her before. The girl wakes. Several hours passed before she stirred. Ethan was sitting at his workbench, tinkering with a broken blaster, when he heard a faint gasp. He turned to see her struggling to sit up, her violet eyes darting wildly around the room. "Easy," he said, raising a hand. "You're safe." Her eyes locked onto him. She tried to speak, but only a weak whisper escaped her lips. He grabbed a canteen and held it out. "Drink." She hesitated, then took it with trembling hands and sipped. After a moment, she coughed and spoke again, this time in a language he didn't understand. Ethan exhaled. Yeah, I don't know what that means. She stared at him, frustration flickering across her face. Then, slowly, she pointed at herself. Lyra, she said, her voice soft but certain. Ethan blinked. That your name? She nodded. All right, Lyra, he gestured toward himself. Ethan. She hesitated, then repeated, Ethan. Progress. Strange abilities. As she regained her strength, Ethan noticed something odd. The wound on her forehead, the one that had been deep and raw just hours ago, was already healing. Not just scabbing over, but vanishing entirely, as if it had never been there. Okay, he muttered. That's not normal. Lyra watched him carefully. She raised a hand and, with a slight movement of her fingers, a small spark of energy flickered to life in her palm. It hovered for a moment before vanishing. Ethan's grip tightened on the blaster at his hip. You're not human, are you? She shook her head slowly. Figured. Lyra looked around, as if searching for something. Then, she reached toward his wrist, hesitant, waiting for permission. He let her touch the old metal cuff he always wore, a relic from his days in the military. Lyra closed her eyes, and suddenly, he felt a strange warmth spreading from where her fingers met his skin. Images flashed through his mind. Starships, towering structures of light, symbols he couldn't understand. An empire vast and ancient. Then, fire. Destruction. Lyra running, hunted. He gasped and yanked his hand back. What the hell was that? Lyra looked at him with something like regret. Then she spoke, her words slow and deliberate. They hunt me. The Empire's reach. Before Ethan could ask more, an alarm blared. His motion sensors. Something, or someone, was outside. He grabbed his blaster and moved to the door, gesturing for Lyra to stay down. Through the dusty window, he spotted 3 figures approaching. They were heavily armed, wearing the insignia of the Xiphos Syndicate, a group of bounty hunters known for working with the Empire. Ethan swore under his breath. Lyra tensed. She knew who they were. They find me, she whispered, gripping his sleeve. Ethan exhaled. He wasn't sure what he had gotten himself into, but one thing was clear. If these men were looking for Lyra, they weren't leaving alive. Hunted by the Syndicate. Ethan's pulse hammered in his ears as he crouched near the window, watching the 3 armed bounty hunters advance toward his shelter. They moved with precision, their black armor reflecting the dim light of the moons overhead. Xiphos Syndicate, he had tangled with their kind before. They never came unprepared, and they never left without their target. Lyra, still weak, gripped his sleeve. Her violet eyes flickered with fear, but beneath it, something else burned, a quiet determination. They hunt me, she whispered. Ethan clenched his jaw. Yeah, I got that part. One of the bounty hunters raised a fist, signaling the others to spread out. They were checking for exits, cutting off any escape routes. Ethan cursed under his breath. He turned to Lyra. Can you fight? Her hands trembled as she attempted to summon the strange energy he had seen earlier. The flickering light pulsed between her fingers before vanishing. She was still too weak. Ethan grabbed his rifle and handed her a smaller blaster. Stay low. If things go bad, run. She shook her head. No. We fight. Ethan couldn't help but smirk. All right, then. The first shot. A metallic voice crackled from outside. We know you have her. Ethan stayed silent. Hand her over, and we let you live. He scoffed. Yeah, sure. Because the syndicate is known for being merciful. The lead bounty hunter took another step forward. Your choice, then. Without warning, Ethan fired. His shot slammed into the first bounty hunter's chest, sending him crashing to the ground. The other two immediately took cover and returned fire, energy bolts scorching the metal walls of the shelter. Ethan ducked behind a crate. So much for talking. Lyra crouched beside him, eyes darting around the room. They, strong. Yeah, well, so am I. One of the bounty hunters fired a grenade, sending a shockwave through the building. Debris rained down, and a section of the roof buckled. Ethan grabbed Lyra's wrist. We need to move, now. An unexpected ally. As they retreated toward the back entrance, a new figure emerged from the shadows. A woman clad in dark tactical gear, her face concealed beneath a hood. She moved fast, faster than any human should, closing the distance between her and the bounty hunters in an instant. Before they could react, she unleashed a surge of blue energy from her hands, sending one flying into a wall. The remaining hunter turned his weapon toward her, but she was quicker, disarming him with a swift motion before knocking him unconscious. Ethan's grip on his rifle tightened. Okay. Who the hell are you? The woman turned toward him, her hood falling back to reveal sharp, angular features and piercing silver eyes. My name is Nazir, she said. And if you want to live, you need to come with me. Lyra's breath caught. You, like me. Nazir nodded. Yes. And there's no time to explain. The Empire knows she's here. More will come. Ethan hesitated. Trusting a stranger wasn't in his nature. But he had little choice. Fine, he said. Lead the way. With sirens wailing in the distance, they disappeared into the night. The sanctuary's secret. Ethan followed Nazir through the winding alleys of the industrial sector, his grip firm on Lyra's wrist as they ran. The city's neon glow flickered overhead, and the distant hum of security drones sent a chill down his spine. Where are we going? He demanded. Nazir didn't look back. Somewhere safe. Ethan wasn't convinced. Trusting a stranger, especially one as skilled as her, didn't sit well with him. But Lyra hadn't resisted. If anything, she seemed drawn to Nazir. Finally, they reached an old, rusted hatch embedded into the side of a crumbling structure. Nazir placed her palm against a hidden panel, and with a hiss, the door slid open. Inside, she ordered. A hidden refuge. The tunnel beyond the hatch led downward, the air thick with the scent of damp metal and dust. Dim lights flickered along the walls, guiding them deeper underground. After several twists and turns, they emerged into a vast chamber. Ethan's eyes widened. Dozens of people, no, not people, beings like Lyra moved through the space, their glowing eyes watching cautiously. Some looked battle-worn, others fragile. What is this place? Ethan asked. Nazir exhaled. A sanctuary. Lyra stepped forward, her eyes filled with recognition. Home. Nazir nodded. For now. The truth about Lyra. Ethan crossed his arms. Okay, time to explain. Why is the syndicate hunting her? Nazir studied Lyra before answering. She is the last of her bloodline. The only heir to a throne that was stolen. The syndicate wiped out her family, thinking they had ended her line forever. Ethan's stomach twisted. But she survived. Yes, Nazir turned to Lyra. You don't remember, do you? Lyra's hands trembled. Dreams, only dreams. Nazir placed a hand on Lyra's shoulder. Those dreams are real. You were taken as a child, hidden among humans to keep you safe. But now that they know you exist, they will never stop hunting you. Ethan exhaled. So what do we do? Nazir's silver eyes met his. We fight. Preparing for war. The sanctuary buzzed with movement as preparations began. Weapons were checked, defenses reinforced. Ethan found Lyra staring at a display screen, showing a rotating image of a planet. "What is it?" he asked. "My home." She turned to him, resolve in her eyes. "We take it back." Ethan smirked. "Now that's a plan I can get behind." As the sanctuary prepared for war, Ethan knew one thing for sure: his life had just gotten a whole lot more complicated. The battle for freedom. The underground sanctuary buzzed with tension. Preparations were nearly complete, weapons distributed, escape routes planned. Ethan found himself caught in the middle of a brewing war, one that had started long before he ever met Lyra. She stood at the center of it all, no longer the lost and frightened girl he had rescued. There was a quiet fire in her now, a determination that even he couldn't ignore. Nazir stood nearby, going over the final battle strategy. "The Syndicate will come," she said. "They don't take risks. They'll send an overwhelming force to wipe this place out." Ethan ran a hand through his hair. "Then we don't let them." Nazir smirked. "That's the idea. The enemy arrives." The first signs of attack came in the form of a deep, rhythmic hum that shook the walls of the sanctuary. Ethan recognized it instantly, the sound of approaching dropships. "They're here," Nazir said. The sanctuary's defenders moved into position. Hidden turrets emerged from the walls, energy shields activated, and the refugees braced for impact. A loud explosion rocked the tunnels as the Syndicate blasted their way inside. Armed soldiers poured in, their faces hidden behind dark visors. "Hold your ground," Nazir shouted. The battle erupted in a chaos of gunfire, plasma bursts, and the sharp clang of metal against metal. Ethan moved fast, using the environment to his advantage, dodging between cover and taking down soldiers when he could. Lyra fought beside him, her movements swift and precise. She didn't need a weapon, her hands crackled with raw energy, sending waves of force that knocked enemies back. The turning point. Despite their best efforts, the Syndicate forces pushed forward. Their numbers were too great, their technology too advanced. Ethan gritted his teeth. "We need to fall back." "No," Lyra said. "I need to face them." Nazir's eyes widened. "It's too dangerous." Lyra shook her head. "They want me. They've always wanted me. But they've underestimated me." She stepped forward, raising her hands. The energy within her built into a blinding light, filling the sanctuary. The Syndicate soldiers hesitated. "What is she?" one started to say. Then the shockwave hit. Lyra released all the power she had been holding back, sending a pulse through the tunnels that knocked the Syndicate forces off their feet. Their weapons short-circuited, their armor cracked, and chaos erupted in their ranks. Nazir didn't waste the opportunity. "Attack now." The sanctuary's defenders surged forward, overwhelming the disoriented soldiers. One by one, the Syndicate forces fell. The price of victory. By the time the dust settled, the sanctuary still stood. The battle was won. Ethan found Lyra on her knees, breathing hard. "Are you okay?" he asked, kneeling beside her. She looked up at him, exhaustion in her eyes. "I don't know." Nazir approached. "The Syndicate will regroup. They won't stop until she's either captured or dead." Lyra took a deep breath, steadying herself. "Then we don't give them the chance." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "What are you suggesting?" She stood, her gaze unwavering. "We take the fight to them." Nazir grinned. "Now that's more like it." Ethan sighed, shaking his head with a smirk. "Well, guess I'm in this for the long run." As the survivors prepared for the next step, Ethan realized something. He had gone from a simple mechanic to a soldier in a war he barely understood. But looking at Lyra, he knew he wouldn't walk away. Not now. Not ever. The final stand. The battle at the sanctuary had been won, but everyone knew it was only a matter of time before the syndicate returned, stronger, angrier, and more determined than ever. Ethan sat on a crate in the underground command center, staring at the map of the syndicate's main base, projected in shimmering blue light. Nazir, arms crossed, stood beside him. We strike before they do. Lyra, still recovering from the massive energy surge she had unleashed during the last fight, leaned against the wall. I know where their core power station is, she said. If we take it out, their entire operation will be crippled. Ethan frowned. You're talking about breaking into the most heavily guarded facility in the system. Nazir smirked. Sounds fun. The infiltration. The plan was simple: get in, plant charges on the core reactor, and get out before the entire place went up in flames. But nothing ever went according to plan. The team infiltrated the syndicate base under the cover of darkness, using stolen access codes and disguises. The halls were eerily quiet, the metallic walls gleaming under the cold artificial lights. Ethan led the way, pulse hammering in his chest. Every step they took deeper into enemy territory made the weight of the mission heavier. Lyra walked beside him, her expression unreadable. Are you sure about this? He asked quietly. She glanced at him. If we don't end this now, they'll never stop. Ethan nodded. Then let's finish it. The betrayal. They reached the core chamber without incident, too easily. As soon as Nazir set the final charge, alarms blared through the complex. It was a trap, Lyra muttered, eyes narrowing. Doors slammed shut, locking them inside. A deep, mechanical voice echoed through the chamber. You thought you could destroy what we built? A figure stepped into the light. General Varys, the syndicate's ruthless commander. Ethan clenched his fists. So, you finally show yourself. Varys smirked. I have no interest in you, human. But the girl, his gaze locked onto Lyra, she belongs to us. Nazir raised his weapon. Over my dead body. Varys sighed. That can be arranged. Soldiers swarmed in from every direction. The last battle. The fight was brutal. Ethan and Nazir held the line while Lyra unleashed the full extent of her powers, sending arcs of energy crashing into the enemy. But the syndicate was prepared. Lyra staggered as a suppression field activated, sapping her strength. Lyra, Ethan shouted. Varys stepped forward, a satisfied smirk on his face. You can't win, girl. You were never meant to. Ethan lunged, catching Varys off guard. They crashed to the ground, struggling for control. Nazir fired at the suppression field generator, shattering it in an explosion of sparks. Lyra gasped as her strength returned. Varys realized his mistake too late. A blinding pulse of energy erupted from Lyra, sending the commander flying. You underestimated me, she whispered. The end of the syndicate. With Varys down, the team rushed to escape. The charges were set to detonate in minutes. They ran through the burning corridors, dodging collapsing debris. As they reached the exit, Ethan glanced back one last time. The syndicate's empire, crumbling. Lyra grabbed his hand, pulling him forward. It's over, she said. He nodded. Yeah. It is. As they stepped into the night, the facility exploded behind them, lighting up the sky. The syndicate was no more. But for Ethan and Lyra, this was only the beginning.